afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today to celebrate Healthy Schools Day. I'm Carolyn Sarno-Goldthwaite, and I'm with Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnerships. We're a regional nonprofit that's in Lexington, Massachusetts, but we span throughout the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states, helping to provide technical assistance and resources. And our vision, our goal, and we hope that you will join us in this conversation and to achieve our goal, is that all schools will be built, operated, maintained as healthy learning environments, that they are resource efficient, energy efficient, but really that we're paying attention to healthy schools. So as I noted, today is National Healthy Schools Day. It is the 15th year that we're celebrating healthy schools, and it's really raising the visibility and the awareness to make sure that all schools are built like this one today that we're going to be visiting. So I just wanted to thank Superintendent Recaro and Chin Lin from HMFH Architects, as well as my colleagues John and Lisa for helping to coordinate the day, and thank you for being able to be available with your busy schedule to take us through this school. So you all have received packets of information that will give you a little bit more detail about the school, some exemplars and some additional resources. So we hope to have a conversation as we move throughout the school today. So I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Susan Recaro, Superintendent. I want to welcome everybody. We are very proud of Bresnahan School. And as we go through, we want to highlight some things. I want to introduce Steve Bergholm, who's the Director of Facilities, who was a key person in the development and the continued running of Bresnahan School. We have our youngest students here from the age of 3 in our preschool program up through grade 3. And believe it or not, beginning with our 3-year-olds, we really emphasize health overall. We just last week had a program in our cafeteria where we were getting kids to look at healthy foods, to look at recycling, to look at a variety of different things. So we start with our youngest kids, and that goes all the way up through our high school students. So, and I'll start off with, we try to infuse a lot of personal parts of Newburyport into the school. You're standing on the Clipper ship right now, which is the symbol for our Newburyport Public Schools. And one other thing I'd like to point out to you is if you look at the tiles, the colored tiles on the walls as we go through the hallways and into the cafeteria, you'll notice that there are some very colorful tiles. Those were designed by students in preschool, grades 1, 2, and 3. Some of those students are now in grades 4 and 5, so they can come back and can look at their tile in this school. And I'm very proud of the fact that I have a tile in the cafeteria too, so, as do members of the school committee. So, but let's get started so we can show you the rest of the school. And I don't know, Steve, do you have an idea? Should we start? Where do you think we should start?
Why don't we start at the cafeteria,
okay.
Get the noise over with,
all right,
and then go to the other part.
That's what we'll do then. So please,
Let's go this way.
Let's go this way. Third or fourth. We had a book fair in here today, which is what you are seeing here. But just a couple of things that I would point out in here that have made this be just an incredible space for us. All of the bookshelves you see are on wheels, so they can be moved around, and we can configure this space as we need it. I do want to point out, if you walk over here, we have a place where a classroom can sit, can be read a story. This also is where we have a great deal of technology that was infused into this building. In addition to Bresnahan, we also had a renovation at our upper elementary and middle school at the same time. And between both projects, we infused just under $2 million worth of technology into the school district. So it was pretty incredible. I was in my second year as superintendent, so it was a really nice thing to be inheriting. So. And then off of the Library Media Center, we have a computer lab that's attached here, which is off to the left, which we can just take a look at. And you can see some of the technology that's out in here that's used on a regular basis from our youngest students all the way up through our grade 3 students.
one of the items that I don't know if you noticed or not, but when Susan was speaking, that you can hear very clearly.
Attention all after-school session leaders, the time is now 3:45. Please wrap up your sessions in the next 10 minutes for prompt dismissal.
One of the things that we pay attention that was incorporated into here is that the acoustic in terms of reverberation time, you don't have that condition where in a large volume that it's echoey and you can hear clearly you don't have to raise your voice to be heard, and so that is the case in both the large volume spaces and as well as in the classrooms.
And one of the unique features is that one of the sound systems that's in the classroom, that teachers have mics that they can wear, and for students with a variety of different abilities and disabilities, that when the teacher is speaking, it sounds individual to every student in the classroom, and it's really amazing when you see it in action. And it makes a huge difference. My background is special education, so the first time that I was in a classroom and actually got to witness it, I literally had to close my mouth because it was like, wow, this is going to benefit every single child that's in here in terms of their ability to truly hear distinctly what the teacher is saying. And that was part of the project itself. So it was great. Our next stop, I think, will be going into our gym.
That's all right. Ooh, pretty floor.
At that sound level, I can speak in normal voice, you can still hear.
Are you finding that the school is being used more than you had thought it would be?
Oh, we thought it would be used. And that has proven to be true.
That's great.
So,
That's great.
And I mean, all of the schools are used
Right.
to the maximum degree.
Right.
Steve can attest to how many hours on weekends and evenings
Right.
that we have custodians in place.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, schools are
Yeah,
the center of a
and
community.
we were hoping that a lot of the evening functions were going to move down here because we were so busy up at the high school. We wanted to kind of take some of the pressure off that building and move some things down here, and that has worked out.
Great.
What do people like about this facility that makes them want to come and bring community?
Well, it's bright,
Yeah.
it's cheery, it's new, it's a new feeling. We had very old buildings here before, so it's a real novelty for people to have such a brand new building. So it's a real point of emphasis for us to keep it looking new because that's what people are looking for.
You're doing a wonderful job in terms of keeping this place up, in terms of even with that kind of schedule, everything still looks very clean.
That is a complete testament to the custodial staff.
Yeah.
Complete testament to them. They take so much pride in this building. One of the things that I want to mention is that when we held the first open house for the community here, we probably had 600 people come through, and it was pretty phenomenal to me, the age range of the people that came through. And I can't tell you the number of people that came up to me and said, you know what, I'm really glad my tax dollars went to this building. And this is a source of pride in the Newburyport community, this school. And I just think that in and of itself says so much, that people are very proud of what was built here, how it's being used beyond the school, and how it's used with the community as well. So I think that makes a huge difference. Classroom?
Sure.
All right, let's
Right up
go
the
see
stairs.
a classroom.
I just want to tell you, I'm sorry that this space is looking as bare as it is, because normally it's full of artwork. But this is kind of the showcase for the art in this building, and I'd like to take you into the art room. Okay. Those are the windows that you look down into the media space, into the computer room. And you may or may not have noticed that when I walked into the room that the lights came on. So again, part of technology and part of energy savings here. This is a pretty phenomenal art room. And you can see that the space was designed so that students can receive instruction here, but there's also a place for students to actually be at the easels. Those easels can be put away and you can have a large space if it's for movement or for whatever else they might be doing. There is a significant storage room through that door there for all of the art supplies. It's an incredible space. I mean, I wish you had the opportunity to see children in it and to see how they interact, from getting initial instruction here while sitting on the rug. And the teacher will, you can see the short throw projectors that we have. The teacher will often demonstrate and show the children what it is that they're going to be doing. Then they'll either move to the tables or move to the easels and actually implement the lesson plan itself. And again, you have to remember that in this building, we have children that are 3 years old up to 8 years old. So that's a broad range of skill and to varying degrees of attention span as well. You can imagine that there's quite a difference between a 3-year-old attention span and an 8-year-old attention span. So teachers really have to, particularly our teachers who are in the related arts areas, have to develop their lessons around the age level of the children.
Do the pre-K students venture outside their classroom to use the specialist rooms like this?
They do, and it's adorable to see little 3-year-olds all kind of holding hands and walking down the hall. And and as you'll see in the classrooms, a couple of other things that I think are if I could make recommendations if you were looking at a building project, that some of the things that I think we did really well. We really involved the teachers when they were purchasing the actual structure and the furniture, and we allowed them to really look at what was going to work for them. And you'll see, maybe, because it varies honestly from week to week, they picked desks that are quite versatile and can be moved into different configurations. And I can walk into a classroom one week and the next week it looks completely different because the teacher has just moved all of the desks around in a completely different array. So I think that having flexibility and having teachers and your administrators really have say in what goes into the building really makes a difference in terms of the ownership and people really wanting to make sure that they take care of things, that they're really invested in it, and we've certainly found that. People are often, they ask me, how old is this building? And when I tell them this is the 3rd year we've been in it, they're like, really? I would have thought it was like brand new. But again, I give a lot of credit to our custodial staff who just does a phenomenal job, and all of the staff, because they really do take care of it. But let's look at a typical classroom. 6 of them doing jobs.
No.
I'd like to take a minute and just show you another unique feature to Newburyport. Here you're going to see these are nautical flags. And so again, I can take absolutely no credit. This design phase occurred before I was here. So kudos to the people who actually had the foresight to be thinking about trying to bring in what is unique to Newburyport, and they were able to do that. And the classrooms are arranged in basically pods of 4, and I just want to take you into this particular classroom. And I want to show you some unique features in here.
Can you turn the lights on?
Sure. Again, these are the desks that I talked about that can go into some interesting configurations, as well as tables that are in every classroom. You'll notice, and this was all part of the building project, and we've expanded it since then, but you'll see unique seating here, and there are a variety of different seats. If you've never been in an elementary school, or it's been a long time since you've been in an early elementary school, children, as I alluded to before, have varying attention spans, and some of the seats help kids to be able to pay attention a little bit more. and it gives them some sensory input. But you'll notice that there are some different ones as we tour a couple of classrooms. You'll see that.
Yeah, some of the seats are intended so that the kids can rock a little bit, and so that so instead of trying to do that on the regular chair, so are those cushions over there. I just want to point out a couple of things on the building's HVAC system. All the classroom wing have displacement ventilation, and the fresh airs are delivered from that big grill and there's another one over here, and which requires a huge amount of ductwork and coordination to make it all work because the air has to come out at a very low speed, and in fact that you should not hear anything from those ventilation units. So there's actually this is about as quiet as one can get in terms of the classroom environment acoustically. And so that it provides the best indoor air quality as well as the best acoustic environment in terms of by having it as quiet as possible that the teacher can get every word, the student can hear everything in the classroom, and the teacher does not have to raise his or her voice. And voice strength is actually one of the major issues with teachers' health. And by bringing air in at a low level, because these kids are 3 to 8 years old and they tend to be on the ground a lot more, the fresh air is at where the kids are. So the kids are breathing in the air that is the best air in the room, and as the air come in, it slowly rise up and then goes up goes out of the room by this diffuser here, and then it exits the building. What it does is that it also, in its process, take away all the airborne contaminants in the room, whether it's dust or droplets from somebody's sneeze or something else, and that allows and also by having a 100% outside air, it leaves the building. It never gets remixed and then sent back to the building, and so that you also reduce the chances of cross-contamination. And so these are some of the things that the school district have worked with us to make this system work. And some people have asked in the art room what this row of different panels are. This is actually this is the radiation. These are the radiators, basically. And what it does is that by getting it up there, the bookshelves can go all the way to, or whatever furniture can go all the way to the outside window. And in terms of cleaning, that if you don't have to mop around the radiator, which is always a pain if you have to do that. And this allows much more flexibility for the classroom furniture arrangement as well as the use in general. And in fact, over there, the windows are brought down low enough so that the kids can the kids can go right up there and look out of the window.
The way this building is organized, on the first floor we have our pre-KK classroom. On the second floor we have first grade and half of second grade, and then on the third floor it's the other half of second grade and all of third grade. And that's just the way the building is orchestrated. And we have a pre-KK office, and then we have a 1 through 3 office too. We have a variety of different times that some of our pre-K students are coming into the building. K and 1 through 3 are at the same time, but our pre-K students come in at varying times depending upon if they are in a half-day program or a full-day program or even a three-quarter day program. So there's a lot of flux in and out of the building, and there's lots of comings and goings all day long. So,
Are those just radiant heating or cooling as well?
I think this building only has radiant heating. Am I correct on
The
that?
only cooling is through
Right.
the displacement ventilation. We can vary the supply air into the room to help keep it cool. It also obviously dehumidifies at the same time, so you can stand having a little bit of a higher temperature because it's less humid. But we can get some cooling out of the displacement ventilation.
So the system, generally speaking, is designed on a design day it will cool the room to design day as the sort of basically the work in around here is 90 degree, 90% humidity days. It will bring down the room to about 80 degree with 50% humidity. It's not going to, a full AC building, you'll bring it down to 75 degree, 50% humidity. Mm-hmm. So essentially what this does is that you get this is sort of like having air conditioning, except we set a thermostat that it's not going to get, on the worst day of the year, it's not going to get to 75, it's 80 degree.
Sure.
We put a limit on it.
It's a very comfortable building.
And that allows us to buy a smaller piece of equipment on the cooling side, and then also allow the building to run more efficiently because the cooling cycle is running closer to the capacity for most of the time.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll call it conditioned air, not air conditioning.
Correct.
Which sounds crazy, but technically that's.
Some people also use the term green cooling and dehumidification, so there are a few different varieties of nomenclature used for that system.
Right.
We have done projects where these panels are, you can buy them that can do both cooling and heating, but it involves an extra layer of, but then you have to have a chill water loop and so on and so forth, and in this job that was not the case.
Despite the fact the heating element is up at the highest level, the warm air makes its way down to where the 4-year-olds are.
So radiant heating works by infrared rays, so it's not by heating up the air.
Okay.
Okay, so it's sort of like so it doesn't impact. So the difference is filter radiation works by heating up the air, then the air rises. This does not heat up the air, it's just a radiation, and then so therefore that's okay. But the only reason that works is because the exterior wall is very well insulated, and this window has it has the heat mirror in it. So the heat mirror, what it does is that it reflects infrared, so therefore in the wintertime, whatever infrared is in the, so if I'm standing here, the radiant heat goes to the window, it bounces back, I don't feel the draft or the loss of the heat through the window as much. And by doing that, by having a good envelope, you can do the system with by having the displacement for cooling, and by having the filter radiation, then you can get away with it. And so in the off hours, with our climate, that's what's maintaining the temperature. So over the weekend and or holidays, it maintains the temperature. The air system shuts down, basically.
Is there a way to kind of revert? I imagine when it gets hot out, the last thing you want is infrared radiation to be bouncing back into the room. Is there a way,
What it does is that it keeps the infrared from the outside coming in. So, and that's what it does.
So it works both ways.
Right. I do not know the technology, but it's called heat mirror. So you just simply bounce the infrared, whichever way it comes in, it goes out.
And I can tell you the 23 or 24 little first or second grade bodies, they generate a lot of heat. So that's not a problem. I want to show you another classroom that's on the other side, so you can also take a look at our playground. This is actually a STEM classroom. So we are probably one of the few elementary schools in the entire state that actually has a dedicated STEM classroom for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And there's some pretty amazing stuff that goes on here every single day. We have little scientists in here, and it really is an amazing space. So this has very much become part of our curriculum. I just presented my budget last night, and one of the things that was in my budget last night was to make this position go from a 0.8 to full-time, and then at my upper elementary, to make that position be full-time as well. So. And just because I have the floor, I'll tell you that we have a pretty unique engineering piece going on in our middle school where we have kids creating robotic hands that actually are hands for people that need a prosthetic hand. And we just had the coolest thing happen where we had a young man who lives in a neighboring town. He's 10 years old.
Yeah.
And
I know him.
he is missing a couple of fingers, and he came, and our middle school students designed a hand for him, and he tried it for the first time with some pretty good results. There's some tweaks that have to be made, but so we're doing some really interesting things in the STEM area. So, and we're starting with our youngest kids, so it's been pretty exciting. We just dedicated this lab. Strem Chemicals, which is a local business, it's a worldwide business, but Mike Strem, who is the founder and owner of Strem Chemicals, donated $50,000 for us to begin this program here. So we just had a dedication of this is the Strem STEM Lab.
And then you're standing right next to these piles of electronic kits for the K through third grade kids.
Correct. So I want to take you down, and just so that you can have a really good look at the playground, which will be out, but I did want you to see the STEM lab. In our previous building, we had really old, dingy laboratories, so these were lovely.
It's the airport style on the doors.
Right.
100% less is, less.
Oh.
The other thing that I will just comment in design, the tiles here, little kids, you're not going to hands along the wall. This is much easier to clean, tiles. So again, a lot of thought in making the building be functional for the age group that is going to be in it. So if you, on any given day, if you saw kids walk down the hall, you'd see about every other child in this one. This is just what they do. So.
And from our past experiences is that if we can protect the lower half of the wall, you can get away with maybe repainting the hall every 3 to 5 years, depends on how you use. But if you don't, every year. If we don't protect that, then and that's a maintenance. That's a cost because that repainting every year.
Yeah.
And it's not just simply repainting because also they get they also get scuffed up and you get little dings, and so you have to patch them and paint them. So it's a drag. It takes a lot of effort.
You can see that it carries through to the stairways as well,
Yes.
which is also a high traffic area. You can get a really nice view of the playground out these windows. And again, you're going to see a unique configuration with the desks in this room. They're a little different than you saw in the classroom before. So teachers can get very creative with the way they organize the desks. But please take a look at the playground. And we have a playground that is for our younger students. You'll see that there are students with disabilities, and we have a playground for our older students too. And this is a part of the building project that is really a draw for the entire community. We have people who come to use this playground from out of town, and we have lots of people in town that use it on a regular basis. And there's lots of different things for children to do out on that playground. And lots of things to keep them, there's climbing, there's all kinds of things that they can do in terms of their motor skills. All of those pieces of equipment that you see on the playground were chosen in conjunction with our PE teachers, our administrators, our staff. And each individual piece was chosen. So, and it had a purpose in mind. So there are, it's a great playground, and it's used all the time. And Steve, can you talk a little bit about the surface, because that's I think one of its best features, the surface that it is.
Yeah, it's a poured-in-place rubber surface. It's probably 2 or 3 inches thick. It's got a lot of give to it. So when you walk across it, you feel like you're bouncing. So it's a real safe surface for the kids. It's obviously made so if they fall off one of the elements out there, it'll give and hopefully they won't be hurt. So it's been a real nice surface
to have out there.
And I've been a superintendent kind of a long time, and I can tell you the amount of money that I've spent over the years on wood chips in playgrounds is, I would much rather put in a surface like this, and it really, it's aesthetically much more pleasing. It doesn't require the same kind of maintenance that wood chips do. Wood chips are messy. They have to be replaced every year. So this was really this was a plus for me.
And you can have you can go out there to play right after a pouring rain because it doesn't
Absolutely.
pond and
Yep.
does not get
Yep.
muddy.
You have no mud season.
Nope, it's great. It's
Oh, so
great.
it's permeable, water goes through it?
Yes, it's
Oh, that's great.
so that particular system, you could design it either with surface catch basin or you could do it as a below. Typically, we like to do it as let it go under and collect the water and drains it out.
Sure, yeah. That's great.
What have we missed?
Is there,
Yeah, there's a layer of crushed stone and perforate a pipe and then the subsurface
Think of
and
anything?
then fill that.
What's the performance space look like?
Oh, we want to go and see the space off of the gym.
Music room.
Oh,
Yeah, you
Show
can go
that.
in there. Yeah.
was our art room the only art room, or are there multiple art rooms in this?
The STEM space that you saw was initially another art room, and we found that we really didn't have the need for it after our first year, so we began to use it for other things. And when we found that we were going to have a donation for a STEM space, we thought, we have the perfect space for that. In addition, one of the unique things about that room, which made it perfect for a STEM space, is that there is a large storage area at the end of that room. So in terms of the science kits that we have, that was the perfect place to be able to organize the science kits and have them in there. So, all right, we'll head back downstairs and show you the space that's off of the gymnasium.
But at the same time, you need to try to make it so that it's manageable in terms of what the noise out there and what goes on there.
One of the other things that you may or may not have noticed when we were walking around is that you see outside of some of the classroom spaces are named. And what's unique to Newburyport, we have a Newburyport Education Foundation that, and I hesitate to tell people this because it makes everybody jealous, but over the last 10 years, they have donated just under $4 million to the Newburyport Public Schools. And they do it through a variety of different things, but one of the things they do is that for donations, they name spaces. And so some of the spaces that you see here, there have been donations received and spaces have been named. They have been instrumental in doing things like completely updating the lighting, sound, and rigging at our high school auditorium. They completely redid our library media center at our upper elementary middle school, which actually share a space, and that was not part of the renovations. So they completely, we have an unbelievable library media center that rivals the one that's here for our upper elementary and middle schools. But they have just done amazing, and they donate hundreds of thousands of dollars to the schools every single year. So we're very, very fortunate in that way. That's another thing that we have going for us. Other questions that Steve or I could answer for you. We've sort of gotten the highlights of the building. We love it.
Was there any I'm intrigued, and we were just talking about the signage. Was there any pushback from the community at all about naming halls? And everybody was just
Not at all.
It's an amazing. I've never heard of any other school district.
No.
actually.
Well, if you notice that we have the Institution for Savings, the gymnasium,
Yeah.
really large donations.
Right.
And again, I think it's people recognizing that education's expensive, and that the more that we can have, the more people contributing, then the more benefit for our children. So.
It also seems like it would foster community stewardship of building that relationship, that this is the center of the community, so by bringing in the local businesses and that everybody working together.
Absolutely, and I have to say, Newburyport is an unbelievably generous community, and that goes for the businesses in town as well. If I were looking for, if I had science kids at the high school that were looking to do a science project, and I needed, if I needed a nuclear physicist, all I would have to do would be to contact the Business Coalition as part of the NEF. I'd have a list of at least 4 people that I could contact. They're amazing. And I mean, the community really steps up and fulfills that kind of need all the time. So.
There's another sort of aspect of it that's interesting to think about is it's wonderful to have the community coming here and supporting it and doing new activities here. But one of the ideas we have with high performance schools like this is for people to take away the ideas and go, that was really cool in that building, and I want to have that in my building or my home. Do you see there's other kind of transfer going on of learning that's kind of cool what's going on there, and how can we use this? That's part of the sort of leading by example idea.
What I can tell you is that some of the feedback that is the greatest for me are when I get comments, for example, from a parent who says to me, I'm just sending you this email because, Billy or Susie was so jazzed up about the STEM experiment they did today. All throughout supper, that's all they talked about. We had to go to the library to get more information. That is like music to my ears. So, because we know we're engaging kids that way. And it's not just STEM, it's a variety of different things. That's really what we're trying to do. And I think that the partnership that we have with the community is really what makes all of this work. I mean, it's no small undertaking, as you all know, to go out to actually to do a building project and to have the taxpayers say, you know what, we'll get behind this, we'll support this. And this particular one included this building, a renovation at the middle school, as well as building a senior community center, which is the building that's in front of this. So that was a phenomenal yes by the taxpayers in Newburyport to do that. And I was saying to someone that the senior center, which people were worried wasn't going to be busy, it's packed every single day, and it's also used by the community. And it is also a gorgeous building, and we have a partnership with them. Matter of fact, when I was here earlier, I was in this building earlier today, and one of the kindergarten teachers was showing me the letters that her classroom had written to some of the seniors. And I mean, and that's the kind of relationship that you want to have. And there's so much wisdom there that the seniors can share with our children here, and come in and talk to the kids about a variety of different things. So, anyway.
Question about the HVAC system. One of the attributes of it is it's cleaner air. Have you seen the result directly with less illness?
That was asked. I have not looked at that. So I can't answer that, but now that you've piqued my interest, I'm going to check into that. So,
I'll be interested to see whether for both the student and staff.
What's interesting to me is that the building that this one replaced was how old, Steve?
Well, it actually replaced 2 buildings.
Yeah, that's true.
The old Bresnahan school was built in the early 50s.
Yeah.
And
Brown?
the Brown School, which is down at the south end of town, was built in 1923. So we replaced them all.
You can imagine the HVAC that was in both of those buildings is a little different than this building. So, yeah. So
Probably
it's,
just age.
yeah, exactly.
If you get that data, I know that Shin and I are definitely interested in knowing about that, but I think that's some of the information that we're trying to connect the dots on, is that we know energy savings and what things are modeled, predicted, things that can be adjusted with plug loads, etc. But trying to quantify the health benefits of showing that we are reducing absenteeism, both on the teacher side and on the student side, but also that asthma rates are going down, and that's what we're starting to see in 3 of the schools that are in Concord, New Hampshire, and a bunch of others throughout the region. So we're trying to quantify some of that savings.
Very interesting.
Celebrate National Healthy Schools Day,
Great,
so
we
that
could
all
collaborate.
schools can be like this.
I can tell you that the asthma data gets reported to the state, so I know we have that. So that's something I definitely can get my hands on pretty easily, because that's a requirement.
Yeah, I would love to look at that.
Yeah, sometimes as an designer that we would love to understand that sometimes we like, okay, in theory this sounds really good. How well does it work? So we would like to have better understanding of that.
When you were designing the building, was this type of HVAC system included in the budget, or did you do some value engineering and come up with this as a?
I was not involved in this particular job as involved, and so I cannot say. But Steve, this system.
The system was in the model school.
It was in I believe this was in the model school, and Steve, that if I remember correctly, you have no VAV boxes for each classroom.
Correct.
Right. So this is a very
we do have VAV boxes for the offices.
Right, offices and the probably you might even have them in the library. I can't remember, but definitely the offices. What that translates to is that essentially you have 2 or 3 units running that, or maybe 3 running that entire wing. 4. Okay. Of the entire wing on the HVAC side, with the exception of the 4 units and the piping, you have no more moving parts. You have valves, but you have no the dampers are fixed. You have no VAV boxes, no motor, other than the 4 units up there.
So that translates to some cost savings.
So So in this particular case, there's the radiation is you still have the piping and the valves in each room, but on the air side, we took out as much as possible in terms of moving parts, so that way, in general, that there's only 4 units, large units, with very large filters, and that that Steve has to maintain there. It's a juggling act in terms of sort of try to minimize the number of pieces and then still give you enough flexibility.
So you're not using any demand control ventilation strategies at all?
In
it's all constant flow?
In this particular building, to keep the first cost down is by not doing that, but you do pay a penalty in terms of you are pushing more air through the room, which we were okay with that because you do get better indoor air quality because of that. Your CO2 level is never going to be, you're getting more outside air. When the kids goes to lunch, you're still getting that outside air being brought into the room.
Are you monitoring CO2 levels?
I think it's only monitored at the very, the unit level.
Okay, not at classroom level.
On newer projects now, we are doing demand control with CO2 monitoring in every room and with a VAV damper to modulate, but that translates to, and how many classrooms do we have here?
42.
Okay, so, but then you also got incidental rooms. You're easily adding 50 VAV boxes and control points and sensors. So those are not insignificant amount of first cost, and it's a balancing act. But it does reduce the energy consumption if you do that. Yes, that's a definite. So for projects that are looking for very, very low energy consumption, we are doing that. But it's at a trade-off in terms of it's a cost, and but you pay the cost on the because it's both the first cost and as well as the maintenance cost of all of those boxes.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any idea of what the rough cost per square foot of the HVAC systems were?
I hesitate to, but it's nowadays it's always
It's pretty specific, like 3 years ago, but
so I'm not going to venture to guess on what this is.
Okay.
This building, but today it's easily north of $40 a square foot. I don't.
What's that, 40?
Today's systems, I don't believe you can do it anything. But I haven't looked at it in such a fashion for a long time.
Okay, thank you.
But it'll be interesting to find out what now that the building has run 3 cycles, it sort of evens itself out, and to understand what kind of energy use you do have to see how
we've seen a reduction every year. you know, just as we've learned how to operate the building more efficiently, we've seen our usage coming down each year, so.
Yeah, year one is never the right number.
No, year one was kind of scary.
Oh, except
It's getting a little warmer every year too. So that's
let me just tell you that my school committee loves to see Steve coming because every year he saves money, and every year he comes to the school committee and costs are down. So they always like it when Steve comes to talk with them because
It's a lot of pressure.
you know.
Got to keep that going.
Other questions? Well, thank you once again, everybody, for joining us today for Healthy Schools Day. Thank you, Superintendent Picaro, for your time today, and Chin for leading the tour. As I mentioned, we have the packets of information. If you want to get in touch with myself or my colleague, John Balk, who's standing over there in the corner. Wave, John. There you are. That's John. We're more than happy to provide you more information about other school districts that have been built throughout the region like this, although they're all beautiful and unique in their own ways. So I really appreciate how you guys have put an individual stamp on this particular school. So thank you for coming, and drive safe. Well, that's the intention of Healthy Schools Day is to raise the visibility so that all schools can be like this school. Is in the Northeast, in the region of where NEEP works now, the majority of schools are existing school facilities. Not everybody is going to be lucky enough to go to a school like this, which is why it's important that we're focusing on holistically or comprehensively all of the building systems, so that we're focusing on the air quality and energy efficiency, and to be able to create those healthy learning environments.
Yeah.
But it's difficult for sometimes communities to kind of swallow the cost that might be associated with something and looking at that first cost. But understanding the return in the end is creating these superior learning environments that are going to have minimal impact on the planet, on the environment. So we're going to have resource efficient, energy efficient buildings.
I think what I heard that I thought was really important is with the health of the students.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can feel the air difference.
Right.
I mean, I have allergies, and I can tell right away when there's mold.
Yep.
And the air is just so clean.
Yes.
It really feels clean and
Yep.
fresh.
Yeah, and I think it goes to the design, and that's how, in particular, this is a building that was built to the Collaborative for High Performance School standard, and one of the things that it prioritizes is indoor environmental quality. So it's the air quality in the building systems, and so there in here, I noticed being in the art room. You don't smell the paint.
You don't smell the art room.
Yeah, you don't smell the art room. Yeah, I mean, or like in the STEM center, like you just you don't smell that. Or even in the gym, it didn't smell quite like a gym that I would recall. It does. I mean, the air always smells fresh. And I was walking with one of my other colleagues, and somebody remarked and said how there's no dust anywhere. And I think it just has that filtration system of the air that is fresh. And so the end result is that you're going to have students that are more alert, that can be able to pay attention and to be able to process what they're hearing, because they can actually hear their teacher.
Mm-hmm.
They're not distracted by the mechanical systems. One of the number one reasons why a teacher or custodian is out sick is because of poor indoor environmental quality. She mentioned, and I think Chin might have mentioned about teachers being hoarse.
Voice strain.
Yeah, voice strain of shouting, but there's also, allergies and making sure that you are creating those healthy environments.
Just dry air.
Yeah, the dry air that's here, but students can't learn at home. When they're out of the classroom, they can't learn, and it has a negative impact on their well-being. And physically, emotionally, they need to be able to be in the classroom to be able to learn from their peers and from their teachers. So it's critically important that we are paying attention to the air quality within that classroom.
Yeah, I think it's just so desirable when you hear that the air that you're breathing actually goes up and out, and it's taking all the toxins with it, and then you're getting fresh air back in, as opposed to that whole recycled air,
Right.
which is just
That stuffy gym locker.
awful. Well, and it's full of germs and dust and mold, and it could go on, but
Sure.
it's you can feel it.
Yeah, and that's part of an effective design strategy as well, and something which was taken into account for this building, and again in particular to the standard to which it was built, the Collaborative for High Performance Schools, is what we're looking at is not only how that building is designed, but how is it going to be operated and maintained, so that you're engaging the facility staff so they understand how that building needs to be maintained going forward, so that you don't get mold in a classroom, that you need to replace filters. And it's important for them to be trained and educated on how to maintain that facility.
So is there information now about maintenance costs that have gone down over time, as opposed, so you pay the money up front and it comes out that way, and then over time it's less to maintain?
And I think one of the things that we saw when we toured this facility is and something an eye towards the materials and the finishes that you put in the building. And so there's two things really of note. One is along the walls, the tiles. So not only are they beautiful pieces of art that the students have helped to design, but also they're durable finishes, so that you're not, digging into the side of them and then having to repaint. So there's a savings on that. The other piece is that the front of the school or any of the exterior doors have walk-off mats. And there's a certain length, 15 feet, that enables, so when people come in, they're not tracking all the outside dirt or air particulates into the building. So introducing any harmful matters from outside into this school environment. And so first you think, well, that's that piece of collecting that dirt. But there's actually studies that, there's a study for everything, but there's actually studies that show that a pound of dirt costs $700 to clean, and that is from like the staff time, the energy it uses for the equipment, and it's amazing that people track these things. It used to be $500, but just a pound of dirt. So being able to trap all of that particulates in the dirt before it comes in, it is an interesting. It's a weird stat, but again, there's something for everything. So you're not getting that. It's not ruining the floor surface. And so, we're creating, durable systems. So we are starting to see that the cost savings are coming down and being able to have a facility that's easier to maintain. And then the other side is having facilities that are reducing absenteeism and asthma rates within the school environment as well.
I would think there might be some decrease, or I'll put it this way, increase for learning with kids that have attention disorders or sensory issues, because the classroom is movable and they can be moved, and the teacher can constantly be addressing children that have different needs and move them around, and they can move. And
it's so terribly important. So not only for students, but there's also a lot of teachers that have learning disabilities or ADHD, and so making sure that the environment that they're in also is addressing, so they're not being distracted by the mechanical systems or leaking ceiling tiles. But anecdotally, what we've heard from some of the other school districts is that, in particular, students who have autism have been really responding well to the classroom, to the classroom environment, and students with learning disabilities or other emotional disabilities being able to respond better, either by the colors that are used, the furniture that's used in that classroom. It just, sometimes even providing special little nooks that might be in a particular school environment. I wish I could go back to school.
I know, I do too.
Schools are a lot cooler now, the way that they are designed.
You're not hearing the hum of the lights or the equipment, which is very distracting and annoying. You don't get the blast of constant hot air from the radiators and stuff like that. And also, I think the clarity of the teacher's voice when we were upstairs in the room and Chin was speaking, it's so much more relaxing.
Right.
I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think it provides for that calming environment, and the hum of the lights that you no longer hear, which really has a negative effect, in particular students with hearing impairments. If you have a hearing aid and there's no conflict with that. So having the speakers and having an even sound quality across the classroom, even being in this room right now, it's really quiet. So.
Yeah, I noticed in the bigger rooms, there's the ceilings are really nice. They've been finished so that they can look nice being open with the piping, and I think it adds to the style and the design.
Yeah.
So it must be challenging at times to get New Englanders in particular and school committee folks to be thinking about spending so much money up front, particularly if they've had the old school that they've had for years and years and years, which was in our community.
Right.
Because they don't want to give up the old school because it has so much history and that kind of thing. And also they haven't had to pay anything other than maintenance, but maybe making that comparison and trying to maintain an old building versus...
Sure. So I think that in some regards there's a misconception about old facilities, and I think it depends on what age you're talking about. We have great examples of buildings that were built in the 20s. In 30s that actually, and some actually even in the 1800s, that the physical bones of the facility are fine. They just need windows upgraded and updated mechanical and ventilation systems. And so there's still a tremendous opportunity to retrofit the existing school facilities here. The problem always is, of course, the cost, and that for every community they struggle with cost. Because there's only, you can't continue to do an override. There's only so much bonding that you can be able to do. And you're fighting, you've got the school, you've got a fire station. John, did you do that? That was really funny. Where was I going with this? So I think in any community they struggle with cost, and it's, often fighting, do we retrofit the fire station or town hall or city hall or our school facility? And at the end of the day, schools are the center of a community. They can be used as a community center. They are often and increasingly being used as a place of shelter in ever-changing climate that we happen to be in. They are, become this. They're more resilient. Just like children are resilient, the buildings themselves are more resilient. And so it's getting, in some communities, what we've seen actually is that the buildings actually end up being revenue generators because they're such great facilities that everybody wants to use them. And so the school, instead of being open from 7 to 4 or 7 to 5, is being used 7 days a week for camps. There's actually a school in Maine that's used for weddings.
That's nice.
Yeah, people rent it out and use it for weddings. So I think there's that other piece of it. But at the end of the day, the community has to decide what the driver is going to be for them. And being able to look at the total cost and understanding that sometimes you have to pay a little bit upfront for what the greater returns are going to be in terms of the student health and performance of that building. And understanding that you're taxpayers and many folks are aging in place, and you want to kind of keep folks within their community, and understanding that you don't want to increase taxes year after year. But if you don't fix that building and you don't maintain it properly, it's only going to put a Band-Aid over it. So eventually you will have just spent all that money and what you could have been saving in the long run.
I think that sounds great. And I when I was looking on your website of the Northeast Efficiency, Energy Efficiency. When I first started reading it, I thought it was just about energy efficiency. And then when you sent me, when Lisa had sent me the email about the healthy schools, and this is what the tour was, then I had a whole different image of what was really happening. So it's really, it's sort of a whole environment approach. So it's the health of the student, it's also the health of the environment and the health of the building, and overall I think you get much more value for your dollar when you're looking at it like that.
Right. Yeah, that's our prime goal, that even though NEEP's name, Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnerships, we're all about partnerships and collaborating with our regional stakeholders, and the primary driver and focus is on energy efficiency and carbon reductions. But especially, in schools where they are such unique environments, it is critically important that we're paying attention in a comprehensive manner to how we're maintaining those facilities with an eye towards the health of the occupants.
Well, I think it is a great example for businesses too. And,
Absolutely.
you know, hopefully when people see this, at least in our community, they can think about the industrial park and those kinds of buildings, and that the clean air, I just think is great.
Yeah, I think every lesson that you can learn from the school facility, which is why schools are kind of that primary driver, that they're a great learning place, is that you can take what you learn from a school and it absolutely can be used in other commercial properties.
City of Cambridge did they renovated a high school building that is it was built in 1930 with a 1970s addition. The whole complex was about 400,000 square feet. It was a huge building, but the first year they saved over $500,000 just on utility bill.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
So
what building was that?
The Ringe and Latin High School.
Wow.
So it's not. You can renovate and make the building. You can make the building that has all the healthy criteria, that meets all the healthy criteria that some of them you have seen today, but you could also you can make them energy efficient. There are many ways. The 1960s and 1970s buildings are the most difficult to get there, but the prior to 1930s building, they're actually very manageable.
Interesting, because I would imagine there's more space, they're bigger basements, or they're just not.
It actually has to do with the fact that fluorescent light was invented and perfected somewhere around 1940. And prior to that, every building that was built have to be daylit, and so therefore the floor-to-floor dimension is much taller.
Yeah.
And that if you just open up the windows, the building was beautifully daylit, and then you're good.
That's the Brown School.
And then and then whereas the somewhere between 1960 to 1980, some of them are really hard to manage.
Yes, and that would have been the Bresnahan that they replaced. Was really.
So that's a kind of.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because there are a lot of quite older buildings in New England, and I do think people may not have all the information about maybe doing some sort of retrofit, and I'm sure it is costly, but then down the road you're going to be
you can keep those those old buildings. You can, if you invest in them, you can get another 100, another 200 years out of them. You just have to maintain them.
Yeah, they're absolutely beautiful,
and they can be beautiful, energy efficient, and healthy building.
I thought maybe you could explain, now that we have a little quiet, about the ventilation, specifically how that works and the benefit to the health of the students.
So the displacement ventilation system works in the theory that you put air into the room very slow, and they call it the temperature neutral, around 68 degrees. And so that it will stay low as it enters, and then you bring it in low, ideally. And as it enters into the room, that if there's no occupant over time, it will just simply sort of keep building up and then push all the air like a plunger, and then push all the what used to be in the room out of the room, going through by exhausting from the top. And if you have occupants or equipment, any sort of heat source, then our body, the skin temperature is 85 degrees, so that it will warm up the air, and then the temperature will just simply rise up. And then effectively what it does is that as that the air rises up, the fresh air that was brought in, the one that has gone through this building has MERV 13 filter, which is one of the better filter that filter out a lot of the unwanted particle outside. Then you get the best air that come in to be essentially you will surround yourself with a column of fresh air, and then in a really, really weird way, that in the heating cycle, you really don't care what the temperature is 8 feet up in the air at the ceiling, because it could be 80, 90 degrees, but it doesn't matter to you because you're not in that hot air
Right.
zone. And so you effectively starting to do something like, for the lack of a better word, you're only air conditioning where
The people
the
are.
people are.
Yeah,
And
it's a
so
great idea.
effectively, so and then also that's where the fresh air is. And it's like, well, duh, that makes all the sense in the world, that
Yeah.
you're just simply, you don't care about what's in the ceiling and what's up in the ceiling. It's just you want the air, fresh air to be where you're going to be. You want the comfortable air to be where you're going to be the occupant. That's when, and then so that's the concept. And then, but the side benefit of it, by bringing it in so slowly, it's so quiet. So then you don't hear the hissing, you don't hear the rumbling of the ductwork, and that allows and then you put in good lights, and then so therefore you don't have the buzzing of the light fixture. And then what it does is that then the teachers, every word of the teacher, every syllable can be heard by the student.
Yes.
And then if you're young, trying to learn the language, you need to hear
syllable.
everything
Yes.
to get to be able to be effective, and so that it has a benefit for the teacher, that he or she does not have to raise the voice and putting strains on the vocal cord, and that the student benefit from being able to hear clearly, whether they know it or not, but they get it.
Yes.
They're not going to be distracted. And then so by properly managing the reverberation time, which is the sort of echoey effect in the room, that we can manage the environment so that provide the best, the most ideal situation. We take away all the distraction in the building for the student, so that the student hear only what the teacher wants the student to
Right.
hear. And so therefore you have the best chance of getting the most effective education.
Wonderful.
So that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to do, and I'm just glad that the building committee understood and agreed to it, and so that we can. So now the students for the next 40 years, 50 years of the building, that they can enjoy the system, and you can see that, and then you get the health benefit, you get the improved performance benefit, and then happier kids.
Yeah. No, I think it's fantastic.
So.
Well, thank you. That's an excellent description.